Welcome back to another episode of Picking Up the Pixels RPG Love. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me as always is Musum.
Hello.
I got your name right this month. Hey, you can support us over at patreon.com/E1M1. If you want to support us financially, you get a whole bunch of extra episodes, early access, behind the scenes for a whole bunch of stuff. You can support us. The $5 a month tier is the recommended one, and it's per month, not per episode. I know some shows do per episode, but we put out a lot of audio over there every month, so that would be a whole lot of cash. So support us over at patreon.com/E1M1. Musum, what have you been playing this past month?
I have been playing two games a whole lot.
Okay.
The first of which is Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Okay.
It kind of gave our game club game a run for its money because I really, just wanted to be playing that the whole time.
Right.
So the short of it is I like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 a lot, but
Okay.
the long of it is Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is a lot. Like there's a lot in this game. There's a lot
Mm,
this takes from other games, and it's gonna take a little bit to unpack, right?
right.
Um, you don't need to have played one or two to have any understanding here, but
Mm,
it has a lot of throwbacks to the first two.
okay.
Um, the world of I'm gonna forget all the names of everything, so I'm gonna talk generally about this stuff.
I get the impression that this game has a whole lot of like JRPG terms all over the place.
Yes, yes, and it
Yeah,
has like the first boss. He may as well have said, "This isn't even my second form." Like for every cliche line that comes out of his mouth.
that's right.
Um, so this world is set up. You're a military faction, and like the whole land is these different colonies that are all different factions that are fighting each other, and they
Mm,
are graded on the I can't remember what it's called. It's like the red clock or the eye clock or something like that.
okay.
Um, and that determines kind of their colony rank. And at some point, you encounter another faction, you guys get infected, and you break away from that clock rating system. So
Oh, interesting.
it's
Okay.
it's almost like it feels very like somewhere between Digital Devil Saga and Logan's Run on that aspect.
Oh, okay.
Um, So, like Digital Devil Saga, you're all these emotionless gangs in this wasteland, and as you experience emotion, like your eyes gain color and things
Hmm.
like that. Um, and you kind of like learn different human concepts as you go. In this game, your characters already have emotions, but there's a lot of parallels with that type of storytelling because once they
Mm.
break free of the clock, they realize what are we even fighting for? Yada yada yada.
Oh, sure.
Um, so your party starts out, and I guess this is the first large chunk of changes. Is fairly early on in the game, you get 6 party members. You use all of them in combat at once.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Okay.
I was not expecting that, and it was very exciting when it happened because it meant like the previous game's combo system was easy to implement, but whereas the other games kind of lived or died, like how good you did in combat was like almost purely dependent on executing, the combo system.
Hmm.
Um, in this one, they added so many different like ultimates that it really doesn't matter. Like you're like okay, so you have the regular, uh, the break, the launch, smash, whatever
Oh,
combo
right.
system.
Right.
And then you have another combo system where two characters combine. This is a minor spoiler, but it's called the Ouroboros. And you
Hmm.
both combine into this large, for lack of I'm going to get people too excited comparing it to this, but I'm going to do it anyway. It looks it's not dissimilar to like an Evangelion or like uh,
Mm.
a
I,
mech out of another
right.
anime, like I don't remember the Hideo Kojima mech game or something.
Right.
Um, but they change into one of these large creatures who can't really take damage and they can kind of repeat their moves over and over again.
Mm.
Um, and then you have another thing that is gaining where the more you like all the different moves you have are like this attack will have a chance to crit if you hit the enemy from the side.
Oh, okay.
And the more you get your positioning right with that, the more this meter fills up. And once that meter fills up, then you do kind of this all-out attack type thing.
Interesting. I like the idea
And
of there being more like MMO style positioning kind of around units. That's kind of neat.
yeah, well, and it's nice because they put a big arrow that
Okay.
tells you like what side of the enemy you're registering on, because some of them
Oh,
are very difficult to visually tell.
right. That's nice.
So on top of that, this game, before this came out, like if you look back on the cast, I was like, they're just gonna allow you to change back and forth between these different types to do that main combo, and I couldn't have
Right.
been more wrong.
Okay.
There are over 20 classes in this game.
Hmm.
Um, each class is a variant of either healer, tank, or damager.
Okay.
But they can vary very wildly. So like
Right.
the healer has kind of two subdivisions of healer or support, where support is more about like, I'm going to make this large ring in the field where anyone who stands in it gets extra defense or
Oh,
pulls
cool.
less aggro or something like that.
Wow.
Um, the tanks, my understanding is there's only like 4 or 5 tank classes, so I don't think there's a whole lot of variance with them.
Hmm.
Um, and then the damagers, um, I don't know. I don't have a real good bearing on that. I've unlocked, I think, 3 of them. Um, Kind of the pace the game goes is you find a colony. The colony has a story character that can be your 7th party member, which is also in the field at the same time as your other 6.
Oh, wow.
That character has a special class, and once you complete their side quest stuff, you unlock that class for one character.
Oh,
And
cool.
then the more you use that character as that class in battle, the more likely you are to rack up points to unlock the classes for everyone else.
Oh,
Um,
okay. That's neat.
so it's when you're playing the game, like it introduces a lot of these concepts, like pretty, like it has a good pace to it. It is
Hmm.
not too slow. It is not too fast. And within like probably 5 or 6 hours, you will get to most of this.
Oh,
Um,
that's great.
I all of those systems feel really freaking good.
Hmm.
I've really been enjoying them. The the main story, like I've gotten the impression I'm basically at the point where it opens up. You can kind of follow the main story and go to the colony you're supposed to, but there are just tons of other colonies, kind of everywhere,
Oh, okay.
that you could just wander to. And why wouldn't you want to? You're going to unlock another class more than likely.
Hmm.
Um, it it gives the game a feeling of something like I'm only going to think of an old one, like Infamous. When you see the 3 islands, you're like, I gotta go beat up this gang to get this
Right.
area, and this, like, it's visually not that at all, but it feels kind of like that,
Okay.
um, which is a neat feeling to have in a Xenoblade game, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, there are, of course, 5 billion side quests.
I would expect no less.
Yeah, and gosh, okay, so each colony is in a region, um, and a lot of the collecting side quests are just characters you meet in the city, and you can, like, the first time you collect all their ingredients, it gives you an item, and then it also gives you affinity for that region.
Oh,
But you
wow.
can
Okay.
repeat seemingly all of them. Uh, and the more affinity you get, the more, like, there's something like 5 tiers of kind of ability and area unlocks for each kind of
Hmm.
colony region.
Okay.
Um, so I unfortunately didn't write down any examples of what those things are, but they are they're all useful.
Okay.
So like you have some incentive to do it, but also if you're just wandering around collecting items, it is, you are going to stop playing the game. It's not a great way to spend your time.
Yeah, I feel like
uh,
it's like the Dragon Age Inquisition of just like get out of the hinterlands. Like just You gotta
Yeah.
keep moving. Like, you can come back to this stuff, but let's get cooking.
Yeah. Right. So the main story. I like the colony stuff a lot. Like
Hmm.
a lot of the colony stories are maybe it's a little too abbreviated with some of the emotional arcs they go through, but most of them are interesting and good, and I'm interested to meet those characters. So like the red clock thing, man, if anyone's played this game, they're hating me right now for not remembering what this freaking system is called. Basically it's this organization, and they have these characters called consuls that generally kind of rule over each region.
I looked it up. It looks like it's called the Flame Clock.
Flame clock. Thank you.
There you go.
The flame clock. Like, it's funny, like early on in the game, they're like, your flame clock's gone, and you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, game.
Like, is that good? I no idea.
Yeah. It did, like, as you get further into the story, you're like, oh, they probably told me early on, but now I understand. Like, each colony has this giant flame clock thing, and you got to use your main character's special sword to slice it, and everyone gets free. But
you use your keyblade to
are,
open up the door in the world.
Yeah. The consoles are kind of goofy. I don't know what I think about them yet. Well, okay, I do know what I think about them, and I think they're really ridiculous, and I'm not sure that they're going to make great villains.
Not sure that that's a positive yet.
Yeah. The rest of the game is so good I can set it aside. And my Xeno fanatic friend tells me that the story's really good despite them all being kind of goofy.
Oh, okay.
So that's a little reassuring. I won't say much about them, but like when you get into it, like there's a little bit of a Logan's Run feel there. I say that at the beginning of the game, like there's a Logan's Run feel, because you're like, guess what? Your characters are in this military system that only exists for 10 years.
Right.
So you're really not clear what happens to you at the end of your graduation 10th year, and I'm not really clear about how old my characters actually are. Like, they obviously started as like 10-year-olds and then turned into 20-year-olds or something like that. Like, there's no way they are just 10 years old and going on this trek, right? But
right, yeah, exactly.
Anyway, overall, this is by far the best Xenoblade game. I think pretty easily, or for me at least. I mean, 2, there's no competition there. 2 is riddled with issues. 1, you might have an argument. For me, it's 3 over 1, but I also didn't. Evidently, every time I play 1, the part where 1 gets really good is where I quit, and that's like 50 hours into the game or something.
Right, you just kind of peter out at that point.
Yeah. And plus, like, the previous games are so dependent on, like, we got to break the enemy and then topple the enemy. Like, it's when you don't have those skills, or where they're not executing, it becomes kind of a really long battle and gets real frustrating because of that.
Yeah, I feel like some of the early games, if you weren't doing those kind of the kind of intro combo moves, you were doing what felt like 10 damage to an enemy, and if you did the move successfully, it was like, all right, you're doing 200 damage now. And it's like, that's wow, okay. Now I'm doing stuff.
Oh, right, and they borrowed a tiny bit from Persona in that, like, you have, gosh, it's kind of a Mass Effect Persona thing, right? So Mass Effect 3, you'd wander around and listen to people and eventually get a quest from it.
Right.
So they have that in here. And what you do is you go around, you listen to people, and then you go back to like a camp or eating area, and then all your characters will get together and discuss the situation, and then you will probably have a quest after that.
Oh, that's I kind of like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, like a lot of the camping stuff in this game is very Persona-esque in terms of your party talking, getting to know each other and stuff.
That's cool.
And also, none of the characters look like
generously proportioned, like 2 was.
They look like, an anime take on human beings that are fully clothed. Here, we'll say
that's
that.
Right. Yeah, 2 2's Enduring Legacy will be like a weird gotcha system and those characters that were questionably designed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will probably buy 2's amiibos, sadly enough, but
Yeah.
I understand any judgment anyone throws at me. I
Mhm.
deserve it. But no, this game's I love it. It is freaking fantastic. Honestly,
Nice.
my biggest complaint is that it's on the Switch.
Right.
I love the Switch, but like at this point, I feel like this is a large enough and big enough and complex enough game. It needs the graphical fidelity of a modern system.
Yeah.
So upgrade your stuff, Nintendo.
Right.
I'm sorry, Switch fans. I love the Switch. I love playing on the Switch, but it's
for big RPGs, it's having a hard time.
It is long in the tooth. Yeah. Like they'll never make a PC version of this, but man, I wish they would.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so for the second game, I started playing Soul Hackers 2.
Me too.
So I'm probably 10 hours in. How far did you get in?
I'm maybe an hour in.
Oh, okay.
I really struggled with the intro of this game. I don't think it's a bad intro. I just it is hitting me at the wrong time. Where my hope for non-Persona Atlas games is like a text crawl at the beginning, and then it's just like, all right, let's get to fighting. And this game is very much like, all right, let's define the internet. And I'm like, oh, I'm struggling right now. The intro is well voice acted, and it has a lot of cool things going on, but like, it takes a really long time until you get to the point where you get a sort of a late title card after maybe like 30 minutes into this game. This giant black hand covered in eyes like comes towards the screen. I'm like, all right, now we're talking. Now we're getting into the good stuff. But I so far like Ringo a lot. I really, this is not a negative. This game does not have a large budget.
Yeah.
But I think they spent their money in the places that really matter, like how the inside of the, let's just call it the internet, looks, and especially like how Ringo looks. Like, I love the underside of her hair, that's that like glowing neon yellow green stuff. Like, all of that style looks really cool. It just takes a really long time to get to the point where they're teaching you the battle system. And it's fine, but once the battle system stuff started, I'm like, okay, yeah, now we're cool. Which really surprised about the change to the battle system where you do the Sabbath, like kind of all-out attack stuff. That's a cool system. So for anyone that hasn't played it, essentially, as you are taking advantage of the weaknesses of your enemies, typically by casting some sort of spell, you build up this meter on your screen, and the higher that meter goes, the stronger essentially like a post-turn Persona all-out attack is.
Yeah.
Where all of your demons kind of pounce on the enemies all at once. It's kind of a neat system that I think differentiates itself from like the one more turn system or the press attack system. Like, it's kind of its own thing that I think is pretty neat. But go ahead.
I was just say, yeah, they took a big departure from the SMT Persona battle systems of the last 10 or like, we haven't had something this different in this game franchise since like the PS2 era, I think.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Oh,
Oh,
I
I
was
was
just
about
gonna
to
say.
talk about the intro again. What do you got?
I was just gonna say that that's really all I've done because it let me save after like the first hour or so, and I'm like, all right, I'm kind of feeling this, but uh, very quickly at the beginning of the game, it's very clearly a mature game. So I'm like, all right, I got to go pick up my kid from school. I can't keep playing this game right now because I just like brought a dude back to life, and he had like a hole in his
Oh yeah,
forehead. So like, I
yeah.
can't. I gotta pause this guy.
A lot of blood in this game. So
Yeah.
I had a similar intro as you. So like I had intended on just checking the game out, getting a quick opinion on it, and then going back to Xenoblade. And
Hmm.
it it literally takes like 5 or 10 hours to get everything kind of opened up in the game.
Okay.
Which I guess is not unlike a Persona game.
Hmm. And storyline wise, it kind of makes sense. I won't go into like the intro of the story, but you're very much like a fish out of water at the beginning. So the game taking it really slowly has some story sense to it.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you, I did not expect to be like I've kind of been mostly media blackout on this, but
Yeah, me
every
too.
time they advertised Ringo, I thought, oh, that's just going to be my Futaba or whatever, my dungeon
Exactly. Yeah.
guider. And no, that's the main character.
Yeah.
Um,
That's her. She's cool as hell.
that surprised me an awful lot.
Hmm.
So this game it takes a long time and it's to unlock everything. And I don't think they needed to do that. I feel like the beginning of this game is rough because of that.
Hmm.
And because it's like on the one hand, okay, good for them and kind of over tutorializing it to a degree, but also like I wish they pulled it back a bit more.
Or maybe there was an option of like I played SMT5. I played
Yeah,
SMT4. I'm okay. Like you could
yeah.
just you can give me the text pop ups and I'm probably okay.
They probably have something to turn that off. It's there's a lot of slow aspects to this game, and
Hmm.
I think part of it's the over tutorializing for the first 10 hours or so, and I think the other part is you have load times between any area you go between,
Oh, okay.
um,
What
which
are
is
you playing this on?
PS5.
Okay. Yeah, me too.
So like even if I'm at this shop, I'm going to go to this shop, you got a I don't know 10-20 second load time between
Oh, okay.
going to point A to point B.
Right.
Um, I think the UI has a lot of the flashiness of a Persona UI in
Hmm.
terms of visual aesthetic. I think functionally it leans on kind of the bad side. Because you're in, any JRPG is going to live or die on its menu functionality to a
Right.
lot of degrees. And I think in combat, it mostly works well. Um, I wish there was a load option in combat because at a certain point you're like, I'm definitely losing this. Can I just
Right.
no, I have to exit the game and turn it off.
Right.
But a lot of your management of things like outside of that and running around town, I think would benefit from kind of instantaneous loads between shops because you got to go to Victor to fuse your personas. Which, if you didn't know, this is either an alternate dimension, uh, Devil Summoner world or the same world. Like
Oh,
Vic,
interesting.
like it's your guy's Victor, the Kuzunoa family is in this world somewhere.
Right. Right.
Um, I have not run into them, but the name has been
Hmm.
dropped. Um, the Anyway, okay, so let me unpack some of the other aspects of this.
Sure.
A lot of the game, like I think overall, I'm gonna like this game.
Hmm.
I am just on the edge of like, I don't know how well I can recommend this to someone. Is kind of where I'm at on it.
Right.
The like you have your main story you follow, and then you have quests you get from I forget the name of the club, but there's a club in town where you can get quests, whatever. And then
Hmm.
you also have the Soul Matrix, and the Soul Matrix um, is basically it's a dungeon that goes through your party's minds.
Oh.
And
Okay. Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
yeah, like the greater affinity you get with your party unlocks certain areas in the dungeon.
Hmm.
Um, and and as you reach certain points and beat certain bosses in that dungeon, it unlocks things like um, it's a lot of like combat or dungeon style quality of life abilities. Um,
Oh, so it's almost like unlocking skills for your party member the deeper you go into their dungeon.
exactly.
Interesting. Okay.
Like I unlocked a thing where if I activate it, it slows down the enemies I see in the dungeon.
Hmm.
Um,
So you can
I
get like
locked,
the first attack on them.
yeah, or
Gotcha.
just not interact with them.
Oh, okay.
Which I go back and forth between doing that. It
Right.
takes a long time to get to the fusion part too, by the way. I think that probably also put me off a little bit.
Hmm.
Because I was kind of
Yeah.
like they do this cool thing in dungeons where when you get in the dungeon, Ringo sends out all your equipped demons, and you run into them in the dungeon, and they'll either heal you, give you an item, or give you the opportunity to recruit another demon.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
so the first 10 hours of the game, that's the only way you're going to recruit stuff.
Oh,
Which
okay.
I guess I should probably mention because it's never clear whether the next story beat is going to be a dungeon or not. The
Hmm.
moment you get the opportunity to go to the circus, do it because that's where the fusing is. Um,
Oh, okay.
I dungeon crawl like it literally unlocked. I thought, I want to finish up these. Um, I forgot what I just call them, the Soul Matrix dungeons.
Yeah,
Max those
yeah.
things
I
out.
want to get more
And,
skills. Like, I gotta go
yeah,
in there.
played for like another hour or two, and then I came back out to heal because at any point in time, like it's another nice aspect of this is at any point in time you can exit the dungeon you're in and just go back to your hideout and sleep and recover everything and
Oh, cool.
move on. So when I did that, I was like, screw it, let's go look at the circus. It's like, oh, I should have immediately done this.
Right.
Um, let's see. We already talked about kind of the like to emphasize like the one more or press turn stuff. Like you don't get extra turns for getting crits or hitting like this enemy is immune to fire and use fire on them or something.
Right.
Um, and it works that way vice versa. So a lot of it is you kind of manipulating those stacks, and at some point, I think it's through the Soul Matrix, I unlocked an in combat ability where Ringo can. I can't remember if it's. I can't remember how they do the multiplier, but it's some sort of multiplier that is applied additionally to the stack.
Ooh, all
Um,
right.
I don't, actually, maybe it just adds another stack or two to it. It's one of those things. It either like
Okay.
doubles your current stacks or adds one or two more to it.
Oh, okay.
The the party characters, I think I like mostly. Becoming a party feels a little bit rushed because you're a party of people who really shouldn't be getting along together. But
Yeah.
um, the guy who's got me, like, who's my current favorite, and I think he's my favorite because his art style reminds me of the band The Gorillaz. Because he has like the pointy teeth like in his mouth, and you can't
Right.
really see his eyes. And he has his bowler head. I forget his name. It's
Right.
like the third one you get, but
He's
he's pretty entertaining.
Murdoch from the Gorillas.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe more personable, but
Hopefully, yeah.
yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I like this game. Yeah, I do think I like this game.
Yeah.
I think it's a rough intro, and I think it's because of the budget, and I think it's
Yeah.
because maybe they didn't make the menus as kind of quality of life focused. But I'm hoping some of these dungeon abilities and things I unlock will kind of curb some of that.
Yeah.
Um,
I think the thing that
I
was.
think.
Oh, good.
Oh, I was just gonna say. I think one of the things that probably also makes me sour is my own fault, in that when you go to the Soul Matrix,
Mhm.
like you go to this one location and then you take a teleport and then you choose which dungeon you're going in. So it's kind of a lengthy set of screens, and I didn't realize on any of those screens until you get into the dungeon you can just press your map button. Um,
Oh, okay.
and I discovered that like last night or the night before, so that will probably curve some of my negativity there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think the thing that's really pulling me through in the early time is just how cool stylistically it is. Like the first time that
Yeah,
Ringo pulls out one of the guns that's kind of on her hip, she like pulls it and then pulls the tattoo that's like around her leg. She like whips that off of her body, and it's like, dang man, that was cool. Like you
yeah.
all right, this is a cool thing. And then she's like, yeah, here's my like demon summoning thing. Here we go. And I was like, all right, yeah, you get this is I'm a pretty easy mark. This is pretty neat. Um, so we'll the only thing I know about it is I know it's not super long. It's on the shorter end of kind of Atlas RPGs, and I have heard that
Mm.
you're for some reason I don't exactly know why. I know you're encouraged to do multiple playthroughs, and I know a whole bunch of stuff carries over from one playthrough to another. Um, I've heard people say that it's like, yeah, it's like 25, 30 hours, which would be nice, but for me, it'll probably be like 40 something because I like taking my time in a lot of Atlas RPGs. So, um,
They give you a lot of side quests in this game.
oh, nice.
Like the moment, like whenever you unlock the soul matrix, like you have 3 party members, so you have 3 separate dungeons you can go to, and
Mm.
then they're like, here's a separate quest system specifically for this, and you get 3 quests for each one, which are
Oh, wow.
kill X amount of demon, um, find X amount of items, and then kill this incredibly difficult demon.
No, okay.
Uh, so there's a lot to do in this game.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it'd be that short. That actually makes it a bit more appealing for me.
Yeah. I'm excited to play more of it. I haven't really been feeling like playing a lot of RPGs, which is kind of the reason why I bought this and kind of as soon as it came in, I installed it, I fired it up as soon as I dropped my kid off at school. I'm like, all right, I need to like get back into the rhythm of playing some RPGs because I'd like to play this. I'd like to play Yakuza Like a Dragon. Like I have a bunch of really well loved RPGs kind of sitting in my backlog, and I need to kind of need to get back in the game here a little bit, and I'm
yeah,
hoping that this will bring me back to it. And so far, it seems pretty promising.
man, I may go ahead and finish it out then if it's only 30. I
You,
mean,
yeah,
it'll
you
be
might be
longer for
halfway
me,
there already.
but
Like,
yeah, like
yeah,
I just assumed there was like there's a story thing going on now that I assumed there would be a big twist to at some point. And
yeah,
then it would unlock like the full game because I was just like I went into this thinking, oh, this will be another 100, 200 hour SMT
exactly.
game.
Right, I'm just scratching the surface. Yeah,
And if it's that short, that means the twist I'm expecting is not coming.
right, right.
Or if it does, it'll be short lived.
Yeah,
But there's mainly in terms of like things parents should be concerned about. The main thing I've seen so far is just it's very graphic, like in terms of blood and
yeah,
certain gore.
right.
Like other than that, like the language has been fairly clean. Like all the
Hmm.
characters are clothed.
Yeah, like you,
um,
if you've played any Atlas game in the last 10 years or so, it seems like all of the demons are there in kind of the same style and art style they have been for quite a while.
yeah. Yeah, like they don't even have the SMT5 updates art style wise in it,
Oh, that's
which kind of
true. Yeah.
surprised me. But anyway, I don't know. That's my thoughts, and that's all I've been playing. So, what else you got, Boston?
I have been playing. There's a brand new season for Destiny 2, Season of Plunder. It is the pendulum has swung the other way. So last season, Season of the Haunted, was all about like conquering your demons, dealing with past traumas, and a bunch of characters having a whole bunch of like war related issues. And this season, we get to be pirates. We get our own pirate ship, and it is tonally very much the opposite. Um, which is I appreciate it a lot because like as much as I love when Destiny steps the story forward and kind of takes a look at these characters you've known for a while, because like one of the 3 characters that you were really focusing on last season was Zavala, who is Lance Reddick's character. And he's been in the game for the last 7-8 years. He's a main character, but you have never really gotten a big look at his backstory. And this season, the Drifter, the guy that runs Gambit, is like, "Hey man, let's go get some treasure. Let's do this." And it's like, okay, I'm with you, man. Let's go. And very early on, you get your own pirate ship. You get one of the catches, one of those giant ships that the Fallen have. And the very first seasonal activity you have is called Catch Crash. And essentially, you land on your ship, and another ship is attacking you. So you repel the invaders, and then you just throw yourselves over to the bottom of their ship, and then just like pirate style, you just work your way up through the ship and defeat the boss. So it is pretty great, and just kind of yeeting yourself through space to another pirate ship is it's really satisfying.
That
And
sounds cool. So can your like how much of a pirate ship thing is this? Is this like you have a TVGP pirate ship that your clan can use,
no,
or
unfortunately not. I wish that was the case, but one of the characters in the story gives it to you. It's like his ship, and you don't really interact with it a whole bunch.
okay.
Because there's another ship in space called the Helm, and that's kind of your kind of mobile HQ. But unfortunately, it's not like Warframe or anything where you have like your clan quarters or your personal house or anything like that, which I hope we'll get someday, but that hasn't really been like a driving force yet. Um, uh, but there's that activity, and then there's something called expeditions, I believe it's called, which is essentially you're taking like you're building a pirate treasure map, and then you go do this mission to go find and dig up some treasure, which has been pretty good. In each week, you're like defeating a bad pirate that's trying to steal some artifacts. No idea where the story is going. Bungie just recently revealed Lightfall, which is the new expansion coming in February. So I'm assuming parts of this will be leading up to that next DLC. But how we get from point A to point B is not super clear. They also redid the last of the subclasses that needed to be redone. So Arc 3.0 is out now. And they have redone it to the other 3 classes. So if you played Destiny ever since Stasis came out with 2 expansions ago, essentially you can kind of mix and match all of the pieces of a build to how you want your build to work. So it's not like the old subclasses where it's like, you have 3 trees, pick one, and then there's your build. So now you're kind of slotting... you have your normal choices of like, what grenade do you want, what jump do you want, what melee do you want, stuff like that. But then you pick from 2 or 3 aspects, I think they're called, which are kind of large scale changes or effects on your class overall. And then you modify it underneath with X number of fragments. So aspects are kind of the big changes or the big ways you define your subclass, and then aspects are fragments are how you change it here and there a little bit. So it's nice to have all 4 of the subclasses in the game available like that now. They also announced a new subclass in Lightfall called Strand, I believe. It's this kind of like green strandy sort of thing. You get a grappling hook in the next expansion for Destiny, which is wild. I'm excited to see how that completely breaks the game. But so far, Season of Plunder seems really great. We're only 2 weeks in, and the season doesn't end for 3 more months. It's a season that's on the longer side here. But everything feels really great. Oh, the brand new raid came out. It's a reprisal of the King's Fall raid from Destiny 1. And just like they did a couple of seasons last year, maybe, where they brought Vault of Glass back and kind of changed all the encounters, they did the same thing with King's Fall. But they kind of fundamentally changed one big aspect of the entire raid. So you're kind of doing a similar thing throughout all of the encounters now, to kind of juggle buffs and debuffs that wasn't present in the original one. So it's an interesting way for them to do it. We've only made it about halfway through the raid, because not only is it long, but it's also our group, the semi-serious raid group. It takes us longer to learn a raid because we only play for about 2 hours a week. So it takes us a little bit longer to kind of ramp up, but once we have it, then we're pretty good. But so far, everything's so good. Destiny continues to be great. Each of these seasons continues to be super good. Nothing huge like the brand new patrol space like in last season, but everything continues to be really good in this one. And again, I will recommend, if you're interested in Destiny 2, and go pick up the Witch Queen and go play that. That is kind of the best content we have right now. Bungie also, as part of their Lightfall reveal thing, said that they're no longer sunsetting expansions. So everything that is expansion-wise in the game will stay in there. Seasons will go like normal, but like the Witch Queen won't be removed. Like Beyond Light won't be removed. That sort of stuff. So that's a pretty major win for Destiny. But that's all I've been playing this month. Like I said when we were talking about Soul Hackers 2, I haven't really been feeling like playing a lot of RPGs lately, which is on me more than on RPGs that are coming out. Because like we're going to talk about here with our releases, there's a ton of RPGs coming out right now. Let's get started here with Made in Abyss Binary Star Falling into Darkness. Comes out PS4, Switch, and PC on the 2nd. Please note, this very cute looking game is rated M, despite what it looks like. If you caught some of the quick flashes in the trailer that was recently released, I think we can all kind of assume that this game's underbelly is darker than it seems to be. So, you know, this looks like a kid's game, but it's rated M for a reason. So, just keep an eye out. Jack Move is released on PC on the 8th, and then PS4 and Xbox One and Switch on the 20th. I hadn't heard about this until I was working on show notes today. This is a really cool looking pixel art, kind of traditional turn-based RPG that primarily relies on you like hacking and installing mods and things like that. Like, it's a real cool cyberpunk hacking sort of RPG, where you're using that to primarily do your attacks against enemies.
Man, this looks freaking cool. Like,
yeah, I wish I had heard about this earlier, because this looks like kind of a neat thing. So it's called Jack Move, 2 words. I highly recommend looking at a trailer of that, because I check out all this stuff that's coming out in the month. Even if it doesn't say it's an RPG, I'm usually checking it out, and Jack Move looks pretty cool. So check that out. Next up is No Place for Bravery, comes out on Switch and PC on the 22nd. This looks like kind of a mix of roguelikes and RPG. Stylistically, it kind of looks like like Hyperlight Drifter, that kind of large pixel art style. But this looks like kind of a bloody, gory Viking sort of thing, which I feel like we don't really get a lot in either roguelikes or RPGs. So No Place for Bravery looks kind of neat. The gameplay trailers were maybe a little bit thin on details. So this is going to be one I'm going to keep an eye on. And depending on how much of a roguelike it is, we might play it on Wii Roguelike it. That one looks cool. That's No Place for Bravery. Next up, the Diofield Chronicle comes out PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series Console, Switch, and PC on the 22nd. If you haven't seen this, there's a demo out. I think it's still out now. This is Square Enix's like semi-real-time strategy game. It's not really an RTS, because I feel like whenever I think of an RTS, I think of like Command and Conquer, and it's not really that. It's more like you have X number of units that on the field, almost more like Valkyria Chronicles ish. I don't want to like invoke the name of Valkyria Chronicles, because I feel like every time I do, myself and other people are like, "Ooh, oh, hello, yeah, one of those." And it's not really one of those. But whatever this game is, it looks pretty cool, and I'm glad that Square Enix is making more different things.
So the two comparisons I heard about this game, one was Final Fantasy Tactics, and the other,
okay.
and I didn't understand that since it was a live game. And then that same article, this is a Polygon article, they're
Okay.
like, this was inspired by Final Fantasy Tactics, and they also list League of Legends as part of their gameplay inspiration. So I also don't know what this game is.
Yeah, I keep hearing people referencing an older like Saturn era game that I can never remember the name of, and I was trying to look it up earlier and I could not find it, and I apologize, but there's like a direct inspiration for some of that stuff. Final Fantasy Tactics would be great, but it's definitely not even like grid based or turn based or anything, which that's a weird. I can see the League of Legends kind of influence from like having hero units and kind of the general kind of isometric view of it. But people are saying the demo is really good. I haven't had a chance to download it and try it yet, but I'm really interested in checking this one out, because I like supporting Square doing other stuff like dungeon encounters. Could we get a sequel, please?
Yes, please.
Speaking of, I forgot to put this on the list because it is happening so suddenly that it's not on release lists. There's a third Voice of Cards game coming out on the September 13th. If you did not know there was a second one, there's also a second Voice of Cards game, and now there's going to be a third one. So that's the Yoko Taro card-based dungeon crawling game where like the world is built out of the cards. I played about half of the first one and liked it a whole lot, and then Dungeon Encounters got released and I just played that. So as sort of understandably. Next game here, The Legend of Heroes Trails from Zero comes out PS4, Switch, and PC on the 27th. I am... The Legend of Heroes games are so out of my wheelhouse at this point that I don't know which series or sub-series this is from, so I don't want to lead anyone astray. This is where I would turn to the Nimp and say, Nimp, which one of these is this? But he's not here on the show. So I feel like if anyone recognizes this, they're like, yeah, I already have it pre-ordered. I'm super pumped. It's X number of game in Y series, and I respect all of you a lot because there's a lot of those games and they're all very long. Speaking of a very long game, Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous comes out PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on the 29th. This came out on PC 2 or 3 years ago, I think. This is the Owlcast Studios very traditional, like Baldur's Gate style RPG, and it's finally coming out too.
I think this was a Kickstarted one.
I believe so. That sounds right. But all I'm
sure it's really. I'm sure it's really good. For those who aren't familiar with Pathfinder, they basically, I can't remember what edition of D&D. It's like 3.5 or 4 or something, where they're like, we don't want to go to 5, so we're going to make Pathfinder to continue using this rule set.
Okay. Yeah, the only thing I really know about this is I feel like if you watch a trailer for this and you see the battle system, you will instantly know if it's for you or not. Because you have like a party of 4 in a diamond and they have the green circle under them. I think that will either make you very happy or be like, oh god, it's one of these. But I've heard nothing but good things about this game over the last couple of years, saying like, hey, this is a really, really great one of these, and you should definitely try it. Uh, Second to last year, Valkyrie Elysium comes out on PS4 and PS5 on the 29th. Comes out on PC on November 11th. I don't know why. Square reasons, probably. But number one, I think it is super wild. We're getting another Valkyrie game after the last one came out on PS2, I think. And
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
Valkyrie Leneth? Was that the one, maybe? Or maybe that was a remake? I don't remember. But yeah, there was one on PS2 that was not received super well.
Yeah.
This one looks pretty different from, I think, what you would recognize as the first Valkyrie game. This one looks more hack and slashy, kind of more action based, which I know Square has kind of been leaning towards over the last couple of years. I'm pretty curious to see reviews from this one because I feel like this could be a cool game, but I know so little about it, and I feel like Square has been showing off so little about it that I'm not entirely sure what this really is. So, and lastly here, Valkyrie Profile Leneth comes out on PS4 and PS5 on the 29th. This is a port of the PSP version of the first game. It is available as part of the digital deluxe edition of Valkyrie Elysium. It's supposed to be available separately too. I don't know what the price is supposed to be yet. I couldn't find where that's listed. But I think Valkyrie Elysium's digital deluxe edition is like $75, which is pretty pricey. But I really love the first Valkyrie Profile game. I will admit pretty easily, I think like most other Valkyrie Profile fans, it is poorly designed in like 3 or 4 different ways. So if you're going to play this game, please use a guide from the very beginning. Please use a guide. To get any ending that isn't the worst one, you're gonna need to use a guide. I don't even know if I'd recommend doing like a perfect best ending for your first one, but it's very easy to crash and burn in that game almost immediately. Which probably one of the reasons why I like it. I like the Saga games a lot, and those games are just weird and mean in kind of fun ways. So maybe don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about. Oh, I just kicked my desk. All right, let's move on to news stories. Talking about weird RPGs. Disgaea 7 was announced. If you were worried about this game kind of diverging from normal Disgaea games, this game is going to follow wandering demons named Fuji and Piririka. Piririka is a naive CEO from a netherworld company, and Fuji is a poor, lazy samurai who hates human emotions and coughs up blood if he accidentally experiences emotions such as love and friendship. So I feel like that's kind of all I need to know about Disgaea 7, where it's like, yeah, you're still doing it. Like, you're still doing the thing. I believe this is not just a Switch release this time. It's coming out for Switch, PS4, and PS5. And I don't expect that to change here in the US this time, because they got pretty big pushback for the last one here in the US, because it came out on PS4 and PS5 at some point, and we didn't get that until we got like the extra edition. So Disgaea 7, love it. Love the wackiness continuing. And our second news story here, Metal Slug Tactics is delayed to 2023. .emu, who's the publisher, posted a tweet saying that they're giving the game some extra time so they can be, quote, as explosive as possible on release, end quote. That's not super surprising because I think we kind of got the impression that that game was shown off pretty early when they announced it, and I think you want a tactics game to be as kind of rock solid as you can before it gets released. So take all the time you need. Goodness knows I have a huge backlog of RPGs as it is. But that's all our releases and news stories, which means that's the end of our episode. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. You visit us at pickingupthepixels.com. Follow us on Twitter, pickingupPixels. Everywhere to find and follow us is on the right-hand side of the page. Musum, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find my music at axis, AXIS-band.com. You can find more of my music at musum.bandcamp.com, and you can occasionally find me on Twitter at John Musum.
You can find all my shows at e1m1.com. As Moon says, the ones are numbers. And I think that's it for our episode. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. And our adventures continue next month. Bye.
Bye.